Hey Dallas, we're bringing you into the kitchen with some of our favorite cooks. Come along and meet the characters behind the recipes that make their restaurants award-winning. Are you ready to get into our kitchen and cook up something special?
Most definitely. We should go. Let's do this.
Let's go. Welcome to Cooking with Friends. In today's episode, we're cooking with Chef Jeffrey Hobbs of Slow Bone BBQ. Chef Hobbs has a long history in Dallas, Texas dining and has helmed the pits at Slow Bone since 2014. On our menu today is the unique Pulled Pork Cue Bun. Let's see how it's done. Hey guys, welcome to our kitchen. Chef Jeffrey, what are we going to cook today?
We are going to prepare a slow bone Cue Bun, which is our take on the traditional Cuban sandwich.
I cannot wait. All right, so talk to us about the ingredients and what goes into the recipe.
So we're going to demonstrate the dough recipe today. Everything else we'll have fully prepared and ready to go for you at Slow Bone. Just buy the ingredients, bring it back, make the dough, and then you can make your sandwiches.
Awesome. Okay, so what's
So we
what's
have
here?
all-purpose flour here. Take that first, put it in your mixing bowl. Now I recommend either a stand mixer or a hand mixer with dough hook attachments to mix this dough because it's a little bit sticky. So we have our flour, a little bit of salt and sugar, and then I have some milk that I warmed and put a couple teaspoons of instant dry yeast on, and it's already kind of diluted.
Is there a reason that you heat it up first?
Well, it's going to make the dough rise a little bit faster.
Okay.
You can mix it directly into the flour. It may take just a little bit longer for it to work though. We have a little bit of pork lard here too. It's melted. We'll pour that right on top.
Where does an average consumer get pork lard?
You can actually buy it at like Whole Foods, Central Market. They'll have it in jars, either in the refrigerated section or in the freezer.
Oh, okay.
This also has 1 egg. And then you just crack everything right into the bowl. There's no need to mix it up ahead of time. And we'll lock it, put it on low, and just start mixing it up. It'll form a dough ball here in a couple of minutes, and then we'll see how sticky it might be and add a little bit more flour if we need to.
Look how nice and...
You can see that egg yolk kind of break up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all the flour from the sides will start coming in. And then once you get it to the point where it's a dough ball forms, you want to let it go for about 10 minutes. It's not super important to knead it super heavily because it will continue to form its gluten as it rests.
But you leave the machine on for 10 minutes?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That's why you don't want to be, a lot of people make dough at home or bread dough and they can knead it by hand. It's still fun to do.
My grandmother used to knead it by hand for sure. With the machine.
With the machine.
Yeah, she would do a little of both.
It's looking like it's coming together pretty good. So we'll let that go. And then this, at the end of it, this is what the dough will look like. You can see it's a little sticky. And the great thing is, like this dough is done, you can put it into a container. You want to put it in a large enough container to allow it to double in volume. And then you can stick it in the refrigerator until you're ready to go. Up to about 3 days.
Awesome.
Then you can bring it out, let it come to room temperature if you have it refrigerated. Then you just immediately start working with it. And we'll pat it out. So you can see it's a little bit sticky. It's great to work on a marble top surface because it keeps it from sticking too much.
Yeah.
But you still might need a little bit of flour. And then we're going to roll this out. This is actually just half of a batch because I already took some. So this is we're going to divide, to make larger sandwiches, we're going to divide this into 4 pieces. Form little dough balls. You can also do this on the countertop. And then we're going to roll them out. At this point too, if you've done this and you can roll them out, put them between pieces of wax paper and put them in the refrigerator.
Oh, okay.
That way, again, you can just do it last minute. But the great thing about this recipe is there's so many different times where you can stop, let it go, and come back to it later. Have you ever rolled that one out before?
I mean,
Use a rolling pin. It doesn't have to be a perfect
life.
circle. You just want to make it somewhat uniform so that way you can get as much filling into the center of it as possible.
How do you know when you've gone too thin?
You want to go to a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch, about 1/8 of an inch. For this size of sandwich, you want to go to about a 6 to 7 inch circle. You can go a little bit thinner. You can go a little bit thicker. If it's a little bit thicker, you won't be able to get as much filling into the center of it. Then we'll take one piece of our cheese. And this is a cheese we make at Slow Bone. It's a melty cheese. We take actually some Revolver Blood and Honey, which is a local Hefeweizen, mix it in with a sharp Vermont white cheddar, and it actually gives it great melting quality.
Wow.
And then we're going to put some pickles on next. These are our sweet and sour pickles. You can call them mellow yellow pickles. And this is our chimichurri, which is in a Cuban sandwich, they typically use a mojo, which is lots of garlic, usually an herb like parsley or cilantro, and then some orange juice, like a bitter orange juice. This has rice wine vinegar. And then I like to use a simple yellow mustard on this to allow the flavors of the mojo to come out, and then also the pork. But you can use your favorite mustard you like, just a little bit. And we'll take our pork. And you can get as much in there as you want to. As long as you can close the dough around it, that's the most important thing.
So you're cooking it all together. Is the pork pre-prepared? Is it cooked already?
Yes, we slow smoke it at Slow Bone. It has both pork butt and also bacon in it. Or not bacon, we actually use a fresh pork belly and smoke it and mix it together, along with some crispy skin. It's close to a whole hog type of barbecue that we can do with the smoker that we have. So it has some different textures and some delicious flavors to it. So I like to moisten a couple of the edges, which will help facilitate getting it shut, pinched together. Then I pull it up on one side, two sides, then on the other two sides.
Wow.
Just kind of pinch it. If you see any cracks or openings, you can try to close it up. It doesn't really matter too much. It doesn't have to be perfect. There is beauty in non-conformity. So I already have a couple already made up. I'm going to add that one to it. I'm going to take it off this wax paper. And if you use parchment paper instead of wax paper, you can bake on that for sure. You can grease these a little bit if you'd like. And then we're going to take an egg wash, brush it over the top. This is going to give you a little bit of texture at the outside of the dough, also a lot of beautiful color.
Yeah, it keeps it shiny,
and some
right?
shininess,
yeah.
Yes. And then I like to use some crispy shallots over the top, but you can leave them completely plain like this. Or put crushed potato chips, sesame seeds, anything that you might like to coat on the outside. And then take another piece of parchment, put it over the top, and let it sit for about 15 minutes so you're ready to bake. You can also put these in the refrigerator overnight and then pull them out and bake them fresh in the morning.
Another time. So where did you come up with this recipe?
This recipe is based on a traditional Taiwanese bun, which are baked.
Okay.
Most buns are steamed. The traditional Taiwanese bun is actually baked in a tandoor oven, which is the big bowl type oven that they slap tandoori bread into. And the buns are baked directly on the wall in a tandoor oven.
Amazing. Ooh.
So you can make these this big. You can make it a little bit bigger if you'd like to. You can also make them smaller. The smaller ones are great for little snacks or to have for breakfast in the morning. It's not just a lunch sandwich. So now we'll take these. They've rested. We'll put them in the oven. Then with the magic
of today's technology.
We have some already baked.
Beautiful. Wow. So how long do they bake in the oven?
This size about 20 to 25 minutes. Smaller ones take 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. All right. How do you know when it's finished?
When they're golden brown and delicious. The dough is thin enough that you're actually wanting to heat all the ingredients in the center of it too. So the dough will be baked. You can pull them out a little bit earlier. You can do that and then finish baking them later. But you could also bake them all the way through, and these will hold in the refrigerator just fine. You can put them in the refrigerator, save them for later. Make a bunch at once, have them enough for a week, and taste them all week long. They're delicious.
Chef Jeffrey, will you show me how to roll the dough?
Of course. It can be intimidating, but it's simple. You can never, I mean, if you make a mistake, just start over and keep on going. You can't overwork this dough. The one thing you want to be careful of is not to get too much extra flour into it, because it will dry out eventually.
Okay,
so get too much flour.
It's funny because cooking does not overwhelm me, but baking does.
Baking does.
I don't know why.
Well, there's a lot more science to it, right? It's not, I mean, there is a little bit of wiggle room, but you need to keep your ratios pretty close to what the original recipe was supposed to be.
And I just like to throw things in, see what happens.
But sometimes, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. You might create something new that was absolutely delicious.
This does feel really, really soft. It's, you know, it doesn't, it's got a really nice soft feel. Okay,
So now what you want to do, you can start off just like you did, make a nice little circle, and then you want to take you can use either one with the handles or this one. I prefer because it's a little bit easier to do a couple different things with. But just start in the middle and roll it out that way. Twist it once and roll it that way. And sometimes you can just do 45 degrees instead of 90. You can get a little bit more of a perfect circle. It just takes practice. Why don't you try it?
Okay. It feels kind of strange without the handles, but
you'll get used to it.
Yeah. Okay. It's yeah.
Yeah. Once you use one of these and you get used to it, you go back to one with the handles. You're like, oh my gosh.
It feels so clunky. Yeah.
You have so much more control.
Yikes.
If it starts to stick on you, you can take a little bit of flour off where, or just right here where you just already had some. Just kind of roll it around.
Okay.
And flip it over sometimes too will help. There you go.
Is there such a thing as too much flour? I've always wondered that in baking.
You got to be careful. You don't want to get it too dry.
Right? Oops. My circle's
But
not
you also
doing
don't.
so well.
No, that's perfect. It's fine.
I guess if you're going to roll it all up, it doesn't have to be perfect, right?
And that's about where you
right?
go. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Beautiful.
Cool. So talk about, you said that, so tell me again how Slow Bone makes this cheese.
So we have a sharp white cheddar. And then Revolver Blood and Honey is Revolver, a local brewery and the blood and honey it's Texas blood orange juice and also local Texas honey.
Ooh.
And they make a Hefeweizen out of it. Out of all, I'm not a big Hefeweizen fan, but this one is the great balance of hoppiness and sweetness and bitterness. It's perfect. And it
What goes into making a cheese?
So a cheese like this, we basically grate a Vermont cheddar, and then we mix. We do a little bit of molecular gastronomy or modernist cuisine. We take what's called sodium citrate, which is a salt, and use a very little bit of it. It helps to emulsify the cheese with that extra liquid.
Wow.
So that's why but you can see it's really pliable.
Yeah.
It melts and just kind of oozes over everything, which is great in this kind of sandwich because it doesn't get too heavy. A lot of times when you bake cheese, just straight cheese in a sandwich like that, it gets a little chewy almost. But this will stay nice and soft and it'll be cheese flavor and have a little bit of that beer tanginess to it as well.
Yeah.
Which is perfect.
Beautiful.
We use this on a couple different sandwiches already. Put that right in the middle, just like that.
Yum.
And you can put 2 slices if you want to.
You could make a
The
grilled
more
cheese, huh?
the merrier. Oh yeah, you can go meatless and just put pickles and chimichurri and mustard in there and leave the meat out of it altogether.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the ingredients that are going in here. We're starting off with pickles. Is that right?
This is our sweet and sour pickle that we make in house.
Ooh, you guys make a lot of things in-house, huh?
We do as much as we can.
That's crazy. So I guess you're pretty busy in there, huh?
We always are making. There's always something to do in a professional kitchen.
Is that right?
That's great. Well, I mean, how many pickles do you want? Put more on there.
I don't know.
Pickles are good.
Okay.
And our chimichurri, this is a Slow Bone chimichurri. It's cilantro and garlic, seasoned rice wine vinegar, a little bit of oil.
Beautiful. Okay, so we're just going to scoot that on there a little bit.
And you just need a little bit of that. It goes a long way.
No more chimichurri.
No more chimichurri. It's just fun to say, though. Chimichurri.
It is fun to say.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just the pork, is that the only last thing?
You can put some mustard on there, too, if you like.
Oh, I forgot about the mustard. Okay. And again, you said any mustard will do.
Any mustard will
right?
do. I think something a little bit simpler here will let the other flavors stand out.
Is that right?
That's perfect.
Okay. All right, and then we're going to do pork, correct?
And we do about 4 ounces of pork. So that's about half of a cup.
Is
You can
that
put
a half?
a little bit more.
Okay.
Or a little bit less.
Okay, we'll just do that. So can we talk about the pork for a minute? Because I
course.
know pork is a staple at the restaurant. What makes your pork so special?
Well, we do something a little bit different. A lot of people will just do smoked pork butts, right? And then they'll break it up and just either put a very heavily sauced flavor into it or something a little bit lighter. We actually go on the lighter side, and we add pork belly to it as well.
Okay.
And then also a little bit of crispy pork skin, which gives us kind of a whole hog style of pulled pork.
I
as close
see a
as
lot
we
of
can.
fat in there, huh?
Yeah, and then we actually add what we call rib water to the pork itself.
Look at that.
That's beautiful.
Are we good in there now?
Yeah, so I like to take it like you were, the opposing sides, and bring it up. So you're bringing like 4 corners. You
Are
can
we
put
supposed to
a little
wet-
bit of egg wash around the edge? If you
Okay.
like, just to kind of help it stick together, but that's not super important because it will pinch. There you go.
Okay. Is there any trick to this that I need to know? Just
Just kind of gently pull it together. Yeah, there you go.
okay.
If you see holes happen, that's fine because you're going to close them up as we pinch. That's
Okay.
no big deal. And plus, a little bit of leakage onto the, as you tasted earlier, is not a bad thing.
So you basically can't mess it up. Is that what it comes down to?
Messes are actually spectacular in food.
Oh,
Makes everything more delicious.
that takes some pressure off.
That looks good.
Okay.
Yeah, you flip it over, yeah, put it on the pan bun or the pinch side down, and then you're good to go. That's
Perfect.
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay.
That's actually better than mine.
Stick around. I'll teach you a few things.
Yeah. So we're going to take your perfectly made bun, stick it right there on the pan.
Okay.
Looks delicious. And then we'll take some of that egg wash, press it on over the outside. And again, it's not super, you want to get as evenly a coating as possible around everything, but again, it's not that big
It
of a
doesn't
deal.
have to be. I can put my perfectionism to rest.
That's right.
Okay.
Some little splotches, empty spaces here and there, it just makes it prettier.
Cool.
And then we're going to use our crispy shallots.
Okay.
And you can do a mixture of stuff too, like crispy shallots and sesame seeds. Crush up some flaming hot Cheetos, put it on there. All kinds of different things you can do.
Did you
Make
say
it yourself.
Cheetos?
Flaming hot Cheetos, yes.
Ooh. I might love
If
that.
you like it super spicy.
I do like it super spicy.
And then we're going to go to the oven. The oven's already set at 400 degrees. If you have convection, even better. They'll bake up a little bit faster. Those size buns take about 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay. And how do you know when it's cooked through?
So basically when it's hot in the middle, you can actually take, if you have a thermometer, stick it in the middle, as long as your internal, and we're not cooking it, but as long as it's
Right.
up to like 110, 120 degrees in the center where the meat is, that's fine.
You're fine.
Because everything's already all the way cooked. We're just kind of baking the outside, right? And it's really hard to over bake it. You can, if you like it crispier, keep it in there and get it browner. But what we're looking for is golden brown, what we call GBD, or golden brown and delicious. So you can see kind of on the edges right there, like where we miss, right? So
Yeah.
that to me looks a little more rustic.
Right.
Like someone actually made it with their hands.
Right.
And that's what I love about cooking at home. It should always look like someone made it and not some machine.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah. Smells great.
They're fantastic.
How did you come up with this Cue Bun?
Well, my
Recipe.
wife got me a recipe book for Christmas, noodles and dumplings. And it
hint,
had it had a Taiwanese bun recipe in there, and she brought some of her brisket home and made these delicious sandwiches. We'd been thinking about doing something different for breakfast items in the morning. And when you reached out to me like, hey, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, we made these. Let's make a Cuban sandwich, but with a Cue bun. So here we have it. This is our riff on a traditional Cuban sandwich. Typically they're pressed, right? So they're heated. So this isn't pressed. It's still toasted though, so it's getting crispy on the outside. And instead of ham, we used our pulled pork. Instead of a Swiss cheese, we used a tangy cheese made from blood and honey and sharp cheddar. And then put our Slow Bone sweet and sour pickles in there and baked it all together.
I literally cannot wait to get in it.
I know, they're delicious. Let's cut one open.
Let me in. Oh, wow.
We'll cut it into fourths to make it easier. And as you can see, we had some leakage, which is not bad because this stuff right here is really delicious.
It's the burnt ends.
It's the crispy cheese. Yeah, it's the burnt ends of the Cuban sandwich. So good. Look at that.
There's nothing better than cheese.
That's yours. You ready? 3, 2, 1.
Oh my God.
That's really good, huh?
And there's silence. Those
You
pickles
see how
really do it
yeah.
for it.
And the dough gets crispy on the outside. That little bit of lard in that dough is what really helps it to get crispy.
Don't tell my dietitian about the lard.
It's not much. You get like a 1/4 teaspoon on one sandwich.
Like it's the perfect amount of salt mixed with that gooey cheese. It's like crazy good. Crazy good. And that chimichurri sauce, you get that that little
Tang of chimichurri.
a little bit of that tang, spice. It's so good. You can come over whenever you want. No invitation needed.
No invitation.
Just bring your buns. Yeah, bring your buns.
Bring my buns and a bottle of wine.
Thanks for watching Cooking with Friends. For today's recipe, look for the link in the description below. To learn more about Chef Hobbs and Slow Bone BBQ, watch this video. And if you love food, don't forget to subscribe to our channel today.